We all know now Roman Abramovich is ready to sell Chelsea as the hours continue to see who will be the buyer, and so many moving parts here. We have Jonathan Johnson from our own CBS Sports to discuss what the implications are of this, and of course the thin line, the ever so present thin line between sports, politics, and the tragic news of war. Of course, Qué Golazo begins right now. Hey everybody, welcome to Qué Golazo. Thank you so much for being part of the family. Qué Golazo pod on Twitter, YouTube, and wherever you listen to your pods. Jonathan Johnson is here with me to discuss, of course, the ever-moving storyline of Roman Abramovich selling Chelsea. So many things happening. Of course, it began with stewardship being handed over to then him releasing a statement, his people releasing a statement. He would be a liaison to the Ukrainian people within this war. And now, of course, Jonathan, we have the sale. Here's a full statement on the screen, by the way, regarding this sale. I will not be asking for any loans to be repaid. This has never been about business nor money for me, but about pure passion for the game and club. Moreover, I have instructed my team to set up a charitable foundation where all net profits from the sale will be donated. The foundation will be for the benefit of all victims of the war in Ukraine. Jonathan Johnson, first question is first. Why is this happening?
I mean, I think, this is all down to the fact that, there are, well-documented links between Roman Abramovich and Vladimir Putin. The escalation over the last week or so, I think it's taken so many people by surprise with the speed at which it's moving. And that's reflected in the way that this story is evolving, because, even somebody, who has those long-standing ties to Putin, like Abramovich, the fact that he's trying or pushing, to get out of Chelsea, so quickly, so swiftly, so painlessly, is, I think that just illustrates perfectly, the urgency of this situation. Perhaps, some people have been sort of reading into it. Does he know sort of, what the next step, in this, really regrettable war situation that we're in is, does he know what sort of the end game is? There's a lot of speculation out there at this moment in time, but really, at the end of the day, the fact is that, somebody who has long-standing personal ties with, the leader of the aggressor nation is looking to cash out on one of his most valuable assets as quickly as possible. And I think that speaks volumes, about why Abramovich has taken this decision and why he's taking this decision now.
Yeah, and of course, many calling out, of course, in the statement itself, not denouncing, Russia's involvement in the war, etc. And obviously, let's not forget the history, the relationship, and the assets that he has in the UK. But he hasn't had a British visa since 2018, of course, as the government went harder on rich Russians after the Salisbury poisoning. So there's a lot going on. Has he been sanctioned by the British government at this point?
I mean, on top of sort of, what we already know about his, his visa struggles, there is an expectation that there's going to be a lot of attention, on him. And to be honest, it's not just, Abramovich. I mean, yes, Abramovich is arguably the most high profile, or one of the most high profile Russians in the world. Certainly when we're talking about, the soccer world, he's one of the most recognizable, if not the most recognizable. But there are a number of other Russians dotted around Europe as well in similar situations. Let's not forget that we have Rybolovlev at Monaco, who have adopted, the same European approach, despite the fact that they are, and pride themselves on being separate to France in so many ways. And I think that with Abramovich, it's almost like the UK government are now under pressure to act in a way that they've been expected to act now for the best part of the last 2 decades since Abramovich came to, took over at Chelsea, and they haven't done so. So for them to, sort of put together everything that they might want to, sort of hit him with sanction-wise, I think it's wishful thinking to think that it would be done sort of in a question of hours, days, weeks. This is something that could potentially take months. And obviously, if the sale goes through as quickly as Abramovich is hinting that he hopes it will be done in the statement, he'll be long gone by the time the government are in a situation where they're actually able to make a move.
Yeah, very good point. Let's not forget, of course, the impact that Roman Abramovich has had on the Premier League and Chelsea before his arrival. They only won one league title, 1955. Of course, other titles, but still not the league. They were an okay club. I know too well. I grew up very close to Cobham training ground, of course. But since his arrival in 2003, look at all those stats, including 2 Champions Leagues, Europa League, 5 times Premier League, of course. But it also comes with the gray line and the controversy behind everything leading up to his exit. We're talking about, apparently, Jonathan Johnson, the region of about $3.34 billion is what Chelsea is worth. Do you think, because, we're talking that he wants firm offers by Friday, as we tape, this is Thursday. Do you think that's a realistic thing to get around that region?
I don't think it's necessarily the most realistic deadline to set, but also or valuation, but also at the same time, everybody knows his reasons for doing it. They probably know that there is going to be some sort of, scope for negotiations, and also opportunities like that. I mean, if you're speaking solely from an investment point of view, you're not looking at what has created this opportunity. We're talking about like Wyss, the Swiss billionaire. This is almost a once in a lifetime opportunity for these kind of guys, especially the way that modern soccer has been sort of over the last decade or so. The opportunity to buy a massive club like this, it doesn't, it's not something that happens sort of every couple of seasons. It's something that perhaps happens only every decade. So I think that this is something that will excite a lot of potential buyers. It's a huge opportunity that many of them won't have expected sort of even this time. Well, perhaps only started sort of suspecting that it might be a possibility this time last week. So I think that I don't think that the valuation is necessarily the most realistic, nor the time frame, but we all know why. That's what Abramovich is hoping for. I also think as well, it's quite reflective in the way that the statement has been put out, sort of, for the foundation to be set up for any of the proceeds from the profit from a potential sale to go towards, sort of Ukrainian refugees and the impact of this war. I mean, that's assuming that there's any profit at all.
The net profit was the statement, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's a lot of ifs and buts, but, make no mistake. And obviously this is coming out of, the worst scenario imaginable, but for some people, this opportunity is an absolute godsend.
Yeah, absolutely. You saw in the graphic there some of the potential owners, billionaires that could maybe be interested, including Monaco-based Brit billionaire Jim Ratcliffe, the Dodgers, Todd Boehly, of course, and some others. So we'll see how that happens. Final question here, Jonathan Johnson. How do you think this will impact the club, really, his exit? Because as we mentioned, his introduction to Chelsea changed everything, not just for Chelsea, but the Premier League.
Yeah, absolutely. It changed the landscape of the Premier League. I mean, obviously, we grew up and were growing up at a time when, Villa were trying to compete in that Premier League against, the likes of Chelsea's new money. And, he really sort of set the bar, which a number of different foreign owners have tried to follow ever since. I think it really depends on sort of how the transition is handled. Obviously, we don't know who the potential buyer for Chelsea will be at this moment in time. I think while you've got somebody, as capable as Thomas Tuchel, sort of leading the team, there will be a certain amount of continuity. You've got a stacked squad as well. But also at the same time, I think, with Abramovich going, there's going to be a number of people behind the scenes who have played very important roles over the last couple of years also going, and that perhaps is what might, take some work in terms of replacing. I'd imagine that somebody like Petr Cech will be sticking around, but, Granovskaya, you imagine that she leaves with Abramovich, right? So, I think her, especially in terms of sort of the way that she has played roles in certain deals, whether it's been, contract extensions, player signings, bringing in a new coach, I think she will be a particularly hard act to follow for whoever might have to do that. So for me, I wouldn't expect to see, the sort of the first signs of an impact after Abramovich's exit immediately. I'd expect to see it more sort of from the summer onwards, perhaps even at some point next season. But as we were saying in the other podcast earlier, you can already see that, there is signs of the players and staff being rattled. Thomas Tuchel is not often flustered in the way that he was in the pre-match press conference ahead of the Luton game. And those players, a lot of them, very, very experienced players, almost, I wouldn't say they look disbelieving, but you could definitely tell they were affected by, how the club has been in the spotlight for different reasons than usual over the last week or so.
Yeah, this is an ongoing story, of course, and much more will happen even after the taping. But stay with us, Qué Golazo on YouTube, Twitter, of course, Jonathan Johnson, John_Legosso. You can read all his content on CBS Sports and, of course, on Twitter, and follow Qué Golazo wherever you listen to your pods, YouTube, social, etc. We will be back with much more. Have a great rest of your day.